Hello there, I am the voluntarist hero, but you can call me Hero. Thanks for clicking on the video. This is Excepts and the Gods of the Rippaverse. This is going to be a lore video entry for Rippaverse. Now, quick spoiler warning, this video contains some spoilers from the books. If you care about spoilers, you might want to click away. However, most of these spoilers are more lore related, and I'll try not to reveal too many major plot points. So if you're new to the Rippaverse and you just want to understand some of the lore, I think this video will be okay to watch. But if you really care about avoiding any spoilers at all, I recommend clicking away, reading the books, and then coming back. Now that we got that out of the way, let's get into it. Excepts in the Rippaverse are probably the most crucial part of this superhero universe, yet they are also the most misunderstood. Across all different social media platforms, people constantly ask, what is an except? And when people try to answer it, they often get it wrong. So let's start by answering the question. What are excepts? Excepts, simply put, are what the people of Earth call superhumans, individuals with special abilities. Except is short for exceptional, and exceptional seems to be the official term used by most of the world. In Great War Separation number 1, there's a scene where an except named Zeno attacks a bunch of Mexican soldiers. These soldiers refer to him as exceptionalis, meaning exceptional. So the formal term seems to be exceptional, while the slang or colloquial term is except. That term seems to be used primarily in the States, or at the very least in Texas. People instinctively try to compare excepts to Marvel's mutants, but a more accurate comparison would be DC's metahumans. It's a catch-all term. It doesn't necessarily describe how they got their powers or why they have them, it just identifies them as a special being. To quote Santuan from ISO number 1, when you're special, they call you an except. But you and I know that's just a generalization. We differ in many ways. Different paths to being what we are, a scale. That's why I'm not fond of the term except. It attempts to put people like us on the same plane. We are not equals. As Santuan says, there are different ways to become an except. If we simplify it, there are two main categories: those who were born with powers and those who become powered later in life. But even within these categories, there are many differences. See, if we take characters who were born with their powers, characters like Avery Silman, aka Isom, Stefania from Yaira, Sydney Bloodruth from, well, Bloodruth, and Ingrid Valdez and Blue Shift, those last two haven't been confirmed to be born with their powers, but let's just assume that they are. So even among these characters, their origins differ from each other. Ingrid's wirecasting and Zephyr's speed might simply be a result of genetic anomalies. But a character like Isom is very unique. People often get confused about whether he's an except because of the hospital scene in Isom number 1. After the infamous scene where Isom was dropped onto a car by Yaira, he was hospitalized, and at that hospital, a nurse and a doctor have a conversation. The nurse states that none of their initial tests confirmed Avery was an except. The doctor responds saying that doesn't mean he isn't one, just that their database does not include every type of special being. So this scene doesn't prove Isom isn't an except, it shows he likely is, but they've never encountered one like him before. Isom's powers are unique in that they are born from the fact that he is descended from someone who was healed by Christ or one of his disciples in Galilee. That healing granted a blessing passed through the generations. Only one person in each generation receives this blessing. In the previous generation, Avery's mother, Harriet Silman, inherited it and became what's called a peaker, and that's what Isom is. Peakers have superhuman strength, durability, agility, and a healing factor. If one scene in Isom 3 is interpreted correctly, peakers may also be able to resist certain Axe abilities. In the final fight of Isom 3, he was able to completely nullify the effects of Jasmine's time dilation ability. The full scope of peaker abilities has yet to be revealed, so we'll have to wait and see what's possible. Now, even though Avery was born into the bloodline, he still had to earn his power, as stated by Harriet in Isom 3. He did not come out of the womb with abilities. When Avery was young, during the Great War of Separation, there was a U.S. government attack on Flores Park. Avery was unfortunate enough to encounter one of the mechanized Accept soldiers named Newt. His mother arrived, using her Peeker abilities to stop Newt and save Avery. Though she was holding her own, the Accept eventually threw a car on top of her. Avery, thinking she was about to die, ran in to help her, completely unaware of his family's bloodline or the fact that he had powers. In that moment of self-sacrifice, he gained them, or he peaked, as Harriet put it. He became capable of ripping off a metal mask and drawing blood from a very durable Accept. Because Isam's powers are morality-based, it makes sense that he earned them through an ultimate act of goodness. In Isam number 3, his powers weakened because to use them at full potential, his intentions and actions must align with each other. He must do the right thing for the right reasons. Stefania, by contrast, is the descendant of Yaira, an extraterrestrial. Her powers activated not through moral action, but through a self-preservation response after being shot during a robbery. Her ability triggered out of extreme distress. Interestingly, Stefania is currently the only one of Yaira's many descendants who has manifested her powers. Based on the lore from Yaira number 1, Yaira came to Earth a long time ago, fell in love, and had children. Those children had children, and then those children had children, and so on. And there are likely many descendants of Yaira walking around Earth, but only Stefania has inherited actual powers. When you look at a character like Sydney Bloodruth, she was also born with power. She belongs to a cursed bloodline believed to be descended from Cain. Her ability, blood magic, appears to come simply from being part of this lineage. To reiterate, even among people born with powers, the sources vary widely. Genetic mutation, blessed ancestry, alien ancestry, cursed lineage, and possibly more. I suspect that a large portion of Accepts on Earth are born into it in some way. But of course, there is the other kind as well. We see examples of man-made Accepts in Great War Separation number 2. We learn Brian Solari gained his powers through experiments conducted by an organization called TexRAMA, Texas Research and Military Applications. To be eligible for this experiment, candidates must possess certain genetic markers indicating exceptional potential. They go through a series of therapies where they are bombarded with ions based on materials already present in the human body, which activates dormant exceptional DNA factors, turning them from off to on. Side note, these exceptional factors might have been what the doctors in ISOM number 1 were looking for in their testing. But moving on. However, within this method, not all subjects get the same powers. Some gain energy emission, others super speed, others a form of psychic powers, etc. This was, of course, an intentional method. We also have accidental cases, such as Ron Hodges, aka Splatterpuss, who in Gooding the Polymath gained powers in a freak accident at a gain-of-function lab during his first mercenary mission. His power lets him manipulate the rate of heartbeats and blood circulation in himself and others through physical contact. He can cause hemorrhaging to the point of death, thus he's able to kill with a touch. In the short story Catch and Kill, from Rippaverse number 4, we learned that Betty Brooke is an Accept who can also kill with a touch. She didn't have powers until an incident occurred in a place called the Wastelands. We don't know much about this place or what occurred there, but it seems to be a location where people can gain abilities. The Wastelands are referenced in teasers for Detention Crew, leading to a theory that most, if not all, of the Detention Crew members have gained powers from this place as well. We don't know this for sure till we read the story, but there is something going on there, and I can't wait to learn more. Accepts also include beings from other worlds. Yaira is explicitly an extraterrestrial, but as far as Earth is concerned, she might as well just be an Accept. She's humanoid and can do things humans normally can't, so she's treated as an Accept within Earth's classifications. It's likely the case for the members of Norfolka as well. Now, returning to Santuan's quote from earlier, apart from the different paths to become an Accept, he also mentions a scale. And in Alpha Core number 1, Officer Wilkins, rest in peace, mentions the Schuster scale, likely named after Joe Shuster, one of the creators of Superman. Based on what little we know, it likely functions similarly to the Richter scale, but instead of measuring earthquakes, it measures the powers of Accepts. We haven't been given many details in the canon about the Schuster scale yet, so I think I'm going to take this opportunity in this video to speculate and theorize about how the Schuster scale might work. This is what I've come up with. Looking at this as a purely in-universe mechanic, it's probably something developed by scientists or government institutions. If that's the case, I feel like the main thing the Schuster scale would measure is damage potential. What I mean by damage potential is how much destruction someone using only their ability could cause if left unchecked for about half an hour. Because of the variety of Accept powers, I don't think it can be as simple as Accept A can beat Accept B, therefore A ranks higher on the scale. Due to how Accept abilities work, it's a giant game of rock, paper, scissors. Some powers counter, nullify, or can be totally useless against other powers. Just like rock beats scissors, scissors cuts paper, but rock can't beat paper. So the most consistent metric to measure would be destructive capability. I've taken some time to create a whole layout for the Schuster scale. Probably ranks from 1 to 10, with 1 being the lowest and 10 being the highest. And for fun, I've divided the scale into different tiers. From lowest to highest, you have the mundane tier, the street tier, the colossal tier, the cataclysm tier, and the doomsday tier. Let's start at the bottom with the mundane tier, which covers ratings 1 and 2 on the Schuster scale. These are Accepts with exceptional abilities but little to no destructive output. They have human level durability and destructive capability. They might as well just be human based solely on their damage potential. Wilkins said he was a 2 on the Schuster scale, and I agree, at least at the beginning of Alpha Core number 1, meaning he's mundane tier. Salvage, who has enhanced hearing, is an Accept but likely a 1 on the scale, since with just his ability alone left unchecked, he can't really do anything more than a human can do. Next up is the street tier at ratings 3 and 4. This covers those capable of inflicting significant damage and being a danger to life, but not a threat to a large-scale area. It's reasonable to think that most Accepts fall in this range. I'd say Accepts like Sturm and Blitz are in this category. They're definitely more dangerous than a human, but still not a large-scale threat. My personal favorite character, Bloodruth, would probably be here as well, perhaps a 4 on the scale. I'd also put Betty Brooke and Splatterpuss in this tier, probably level 3. They can obviously do more damage than a human, though I did consider if they fit more in the mundane tier, but because of how deadly their powers are, I think they are best put at level 3 in the street tier. Even though, hypothetically, if their powers can work on anybody, their powers could kill someone like Brian Solari or Yaira, both of whom would be way higher on the scale, and they could take them down with a touch. But remember, damage potential is the metric. Left unchecked, they simply can't cause as much destruction as Brian Solari or Yaira. Next is ratings 5 and 6, which are the colossal tier. These Accepts, if left unchecked, could level entire city blocks, multiple blocks, and potentially, and that's a big maybe, city-wide destruction. I put characters like Isom, Santuan, and Lepredo here, who all are 6s by my assessment. I think physically superhuman characters, basically those with super strength and durability, will usually fall between the range of 3 and 6 on the scale. Most of them would top out at colossal tier, and I think this is simply because these types tend not to have range. I'd also put Braxwell in this tier, as well as Billy Bob Quinn, aka Barbecue. Ingrid is tricky. Her whips are extremely dangerous and far-reaching, so she could be a 5, but since she doesn't have extreme durability, I think she might fit better at the high end of the street tier at 4, but that's open for discussion. Now, at rating 7 and 8, we get the Cataclysm tier. These Excepts easily have citywide or even multi-citywide destructive ability, comparable to natural disasters. Brian Solari could be a 6 in the Colossal tier, but an argument could be made that he belongs in the Cataclysm tier at 7. His durability and flight ability really push him upward. He's harder to stop, and if he were only just strong and durable, he'd probably be a Colossal, but flight allows him more destructive mobility. Yaira is for sure an 8. Whether or not you think her and Brian are evenly matched, with her ability to manipulate the atmosphere and control weather, she can do way more damage unchecked than Brian Solari ever could. Stefania would also be an 8, higher than Solari, but even though Solari could probably beat her, she has Yaira's powers. If left unchecked, she could do as much damage as Yaira can by fully unleashing her abilities. Now, Shadran might be one of those few strength-type exceptions who could be put on this tier of the scale, although he strikes me as a character who might possess World Breaker Hulk levels of strength, and if that's the case, he might actually belong in the next tier. At the top is the Doomsday tier, at ratings 9 and 10. These are powers capable of nuclear-level destruction, continental or even global destruction. I assume someone like Zaylin probably belongs here, although considering he's a cosmic level hero, this might not even be enough. There might need to be a separate scale for someone like Zaylin, though I doubt Earth scientists and or governments created the Schuster scale with someone like Zaylin in mind. There are things that might not be fully accounted for using this system. For example, someone like Benny, who can manipulate behavior through suggestion, would probably be mundane tier at 2 on the scale or low street tier at 3. If he were to control someone powerful like Brian Solari, he would technically gain higher damage potential, but that's only because he's using another powerful Except. So Benny likely still belongs at 2 or 3 on the scale. It's also possible to climb higher on the scale over time. Many Except abilities seem to act as a muscle. As we see in Alpha Core number 1, Wilkins clearly increased his Schuster scale rating, becoming strong enough to stop the Eagle's Nest when it was crashing in to the police headquarters. He's possibly at that point a high-end Colossal, maybe even Cataclysm tier. Isam's powers also seem to be the type to improve, as evidenced in Isam 1 when he said, "I've trained my body to do things people like me shouldn't be able to do." He's also clearly a lot stronger by the end of the Ill-Advised arc than at the beginning. It's possible that he might grow to Cataclysm or even Doomsday tier. Now, how I've described this scale, it can be used primarily for operational purposes. If Alpha Core is notified about a rogue Except, they might receive the Schuster scale ratings to prioritize the response. In Yaira number 1, Yanessa and Yantoni, aka the worst villains in the Rippaverse, were probably in the Cataclysm tier. So lethal force authorization had to be given by Solari. A level 9 or 10, aka a Doomsday tier, threat might require taking them down even if civilian casualties occur. If an Except could wipe out an entire state or even the world, they would have to neutralize it no matter what, or it's over. I'd love to see a storyline exploring this harsh scenario. Of course, all of this is speculation and theory crafting, a potential way this scale might be used. Although the tiers are my own creation, if it's not made canon, I'll be cool if the fandom adopts this for power scaling this universe. I didn't mention every except in the series, and I didn't go into too much detail with my justifications for their placement, so let me know in the comments if you like it and where you would put certain excepts in my version of the Schuster scale. Nevertheless, I hope we get more info about the scale in later Rippaverse stories. Now, this scale would just be one part of how excepts are dealt with in this universe. Excepts seem to be a typical part of this world. The general populace knows about them. Some excepts are criminals, some live everyday lives, some are law enforcers, vigilantes, and even offer paid services. Some hide in plain sight, as we see in Great War Separation number 2. Some are in mental hospitals and asylums. But there is a question that can arise when looking at this. A question I recall someone once asked on a Rippaverse post: who was the first except? They believed answering this would help us understand what excepts truly are, and I don't necessarily agree. It's fascinating, but I think the better question is, who was the first identified except? Since an except is simply someone with exceptional abilities, and supernatural elements clearly exist in the Rippaverse, including the biblical god Yahweh being confirmed as real, then supernatural acts by humans throughout history can be seen as exceptional feats. So the first except as defined might not be traceable. There have likely always been excepts. For instance, the Peakers in Isam's bloodline have existed since the time of Christ at least. If one Peaker is born in each generation, then at any given point in human history there would have been 2, 3, maybe 4 Peakers on the planet. However, Peakers are so secreted that even Bloodruth, an expert in supernatural matters, thought they were a myth. With that, I present the theory that there may have been a period in history where superhumans weren't known at all. If they were, it was as legends or folk tales. In that time, humans lived under the assumption that humans can't fly, punch through walls, become living volcanoes, or summon storms. Until someone in maybe the early modern era publicly displayed an exceptional ability, and at that moment could have brought about the term exceptional, exposing the world to special beings. Now, you've probably noticed this video is called Excepts and the Gods of the Rippaverse. There's a reason for this. While reading Bloodruth number 1, there's a scene where Bloodruth goes to a church to stock up on holy items before fighting demons. Gooding asks, "I thought you said you were good to go." Sidney replies, "Do churches make you uncomfortable, Gooding? That's just too bad. I take great comfort in them." Gooding decides to wait outside while she goes. Now, this small exchange between Sidney and Cato made me wonder, does Gooding believe in God? Or does he look at supernatural events as merely bizarre scientific phenomena in a universe filled with special beings? As shown in Bloodruth number 1, biblical accounts are clearly real. In Norfolka, Glorious Death, we see Norse and African mythologies are real to some extent. So, what room is there for atheism or disbelief in this universe? I think excepts might create room for doubt. See, if superhumans existed, and modern Rippaverse residents find it possible that they've always existed, someone might look at biblical miracles and think, hey, Jesus turning water into wine? Probably an except with matter manipulation. Moses parting the Red Sea? Clearly a genetic mutation that granted hydrokinesis. Samson's strength? Just another brute type except like we see all the time. Even gods of pagan religions could all be ancient excepts, and primitive man simply didn't realize it. In Yara number 1, Yara tells her children what I assume are stories from her homeworld, and those stories mirror Roman mythologies almost exactly. Like the story of Saturn fearing his children's rise to power, so he ate each child as soon as they were born. This might have inspired all of the Roman myths. The Roman god Neptune is revealed to be one of Yara's kind, who came to Earth before she arrived and was thought to be dead, killed by his father Saturn. His story with his wife and the many pairs of twins that they had matches Roman mythology verbatim. In the myth of Atlantis, as recounted by Plato, Neptune fathered 5 sets of male twins with the mortal woman Cleito, the firstborn of whom was Atlas. So, at the very least, Roman mythology in the Rippaverse might come directly from alien history. So with that, there's plenty of room to dismiss the divine and supernatural. However, it's possible there are those in the Rippaverse that acknowledge all these beings and occurrences as real, whether they be scientific or supernatural or divine. Gods, aliens, excepts, in the mind of some could be all one in the same. I mean, how miraculous is walking on water when the average Forest Park resident witnesses a man in a cape soaring through the sky on the regular? So this raises another question. Is there room to believe in just one God? Not only that, but worship that God as though he is above all others. There are many characters in the Rippaverse who do. Isom, Bloodruth, Betty Brooke, Death Defier, to name a few. How might they rationalize this belief? If you look to Norfolka, Glorious Death number 1, in Asgarth, a young Valadan is being taught about the realms, specifically the human realm. His father, Alfadar, says this: Middengarth, the world of humans, though they favor the Asgarths in appearance, much differentiates us. The duration of your youth will outlast several of their lifetimes. Their mortality shall not be mistaken for weakness. Your capabilities will far exceed the humans. They cannot rival your strength, even as a boy. But there are exceptions. Now, side note, I like the idea that a way you can look at excepts on Earth is that excepts are the exceptions to the human rule. Pretty cool. Now, in the next page, he states that humans are not their enemies, but they do tend to worship them as gods. But Allfather himself does not endorse this. Even more interesting, later in the book, the villain Silecio also talks about the realms, and when discussing Middengarth, or Earth, he says Asgarths are the only beings who go to Earth and accept worship as if they were the Allborn themselves. This is important because it suggests the people of the realms, despite how powerful they are, do not consider themselves gods, and they believe there is one being worthy of worship, the Allborn. I imagine Allborn indicates that this is the source from which all life and existence was born. It's not confirmed, but my theory is that the Allborn appears to be the creator of all existence, the God figure. Perhaps they don't call him Yahweh, but even the realm's most powerful beings believe in an eternal creator. So, on Earth, how does one worship one God when beings with godlike powers exist? The answer might be they know excepts aren't gods. No matter how powerful they are, no matter how high on the Schuster scale they aren't eternal, they aren't all-knowing or all-powerful. They age, they die, they were created, and clearly aren't responsible for the creation of the universe. They may be exceptions to humanity, but they are not divine. All of this paints an interesting picture of excepts and their place in the Rippaverse. Not just how they exist and but also how they inform belief systems and the mindsets of the people. As we dive deeper into the Rippaverse, I'm excited to learn more about different types of excepts and powerful beings and their impact on the world. And with that, I think this is probably a good place to end the video. Now, before I head out, I just want to say this. As a Rippaverse fan, I love what Eric and his team have created here in such a short time. The only reason I can make a video like this with any type of depth is because they put out so much material for us to explore and dig into. And I've enjoyed most of what the Rippaverse has released so far, and it's been a fun ride. I hope this universe and this company continues for years to come. Sincerely, I'm rooting for you guys. Thanks for watching the video. Peace out.